Welcome back to the World of Wellness podcast hosted by your favorite wellness coach, Taj. So for this episode, I apologize, but when I went back to edit the video, I realized we had a few technical difficulties. So this one is just going to have to be over audio. So plug in your headphones and just enjoy the episode. Don't let the visuals missing allow you to miss what's here for you. And I will be back on screen next week. So enjoy, and I'm sorry. And I love you. So today we're going to talk about the struggle to grow. Why is it so hard for us to change as humans? And we hear people say all the time, well, you can't change anybody because it's hard enough to change yourself. And that's a fact. But I've seen people do a complete 180 in this lifetime that I never thought I would see change and grow the way that they have, for better and for worse. So let's get into it. Before we do, we're going to do our mindful minute. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So we do our mindful minute just to ground down. I do it to also help myself ground into the message, to relax and to become more receptive. And also you can use this to anchor into your discernment. So whatever you hear during this podcast episode, you can take it, meditate on it, and see what else comes about and how it resonates for you in your life and what changes are being called for you at this time. So you can close your eyes, place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and we're just going to take deep inhales through the nose. Exhale through the mouth and release your shoulders, release your jaw. Release any tension in your body. Keep breathing in through the nose. Now let's get into it. So I had prepared notes on this a while ago, and so we're just going to kind of go with that and also go with whatever comes up. So the first thing I have here is the power of habit loops. So we all have habits that are not necessarily beneficial, and we have some that are. Like if you like working out, if you like your daily cup of coffee or like to go on your walks before or after work, like those are great habits, you know. But the habit loops I'm talking about are our triggers. So you have a situation that happens in your life, you're triggered by it, right? And you are triggered by it because you're not necessarily in expectation of it consciously, although subconsciously, the part of you that's called for healing, it's sought out that trigger. That's why you're in the situation dealing with the person or doing whatever you're doing, right? Usually it's some kind of expectation hasn't been met. And so then the result is you overreact, you hide, you run away, whatever your go-to response is when you're triggered, right? For me, I will put up the deuces and leave real quick. Because it's also learning when it's time to talk about something and when it's just like, oh yeah, no. But if I know and in that moment I'm conscious enough to be like, okay, I'm being triggered, the next thing to do is to introspect. So anyway, habit loops. It's kind of like a reflex. We've talked about this before. It's a knee-jerk reaction. So let's say somebody makes you feel abandoned. Somebody does something to make you feel unworthy, forgotten, unheard. And these are things you dealt with in your childhood. Your expectations of them are not being met. So that's going to upset you and it's going to lead to some action. So your body and your brain, they've been so conditioned when faced with this trigger to respond a certain way. So you're going to automatically do that until you become conscious enough and break the habit. And that takes doing a lot of just reflection on the last times you've been upset or the things that used to hurt you the most in your childhood and going from there. Also, environmental and historical influence. We talked about traumatic childhood experiences, traumatic emotional experiences that are left unaddressed. So the issue with that is we just talked about the brain and body, right? That creates a subconscious network of, it's like, it's all in a web. The trigger, the reaction, all of that. So you become subconsciously controlled. So that's why when you're triggered, if you're not someone who has been doing their spiritual walk or doing their inner work for a while, or you've fallen off, you get triggered and you automatically respond. And if you self-reflect, then you see like, okay, what happened did not call for what I just did. So what is the reason I did it is because you were under subconscious control. And when you leave these things unaddressed, it's like an uncovered wound. It festers and festers and festers, and it goes deeper into your body and into your psyche. And then by the time you got to uproot it, it's such a painful process because it has become a part of you entirely. So it's like, that's why we call it the ego death. That is what is dying. It's those emotional behavioral patterns that come from things we never addressed because they were painful, because we were in denial about them, etc. And then we talked about that, why we do what we know isn't best for us. And you just have to self-examine that for yourself and be completely raw and pray for spirit, source, whatever, to reveal those parts of you to yourself that call you to do things that are not serving who you're becoming. And ask for the strength to overcome those parts of you, to heal those parts of you, not to fight with them, not to battle it out, right? When I talked about the enemy in the last series, it wasn't to say, oh, we're fighting this. I don't look at it, it's kind of intricate the way that I see it in my mind. It's almost like a dance of sorts. But it's not like a sword fight. You're not going like head to head with your shadow self. It's about integrating it. It's about seeing it and saying, okay, this is a part of me. How can I embrace this part of me so that I'm not fighting myself and judging myself, which is wasting energy on what I really should be doing, which is providing grace, comfort, and love to myself and to others and staying focused. If you're so busy fighting the parts of yourself that you want to rid yourself of, let's say self-worth issues, abandonment issues, mother-father wounds, if you're so busy fighting yourself on these things, that's so much time, energy, attention that is being taken away from all the love you could be pouring in, all the grace. Once you have grace and make peace with who you are, even in your incomplete form, because that's the form we're always going to be in these bodies, in your flawed and unaccepted areas, once you make peace and extend grace to yourself, it's like you free up an entire field of potential. And that's for you to do whatever you want to do with it. But know that if you put it towards love and towards grace and towards your goals, it's going to continue to open up more and more space for you. But if you continue to put it towards self-hatred or self-judgment because you've been trying to change for so long and you just can't seem to get right, or you're starting to lose hope in yourself because you've made so many decisions and you didn't follow through on things. That was the issue I had, was I stopped trusting myself because every time I would say, oh, I'm going to do this, I would do it for a bit of time. And then next thing you know, I've pretty much given up on it. I'm over it for whatever reason or excuse I made to give myself an out. But what that leads to time after time, eventually you come to not see yourself as trustworthy anymore. And that's a scary thing, because if you're in the world, it's like if you can't trust you, you're not going to trust spirit when it's speaking to you, because you're not going to trust your discernment. You're not going to trust your gut when it's speaking to you because you're not going to trust your discernment. So you have to start making small changes, and we're getting ready to talk about how to break out of it in a little bit, but just little tweaks in behavior that are easy. Like, say I'm not going to smoke today. Set a date ahead of time, a week ahead of time. Okay, next Saturday, I'm going to go without a cigarette or weed or whatever, or a drink for 24 hours. Just you doing that, and I'm getting emotional because I remember like You have to build yourself up and your self-confidence and self-belief up little by little, and it's a very personal journey. But it's no small thing. Even though it seems like you're making these micro goals, they lead to macro changes inside of yourself. And the level of trust you start to have for yourself, the level of camaraderie you have for yourself, and the level of love. So choose these small tweaks and just hold yourself accountable for just for that 24 hours. And pray for the strength to hold to that commitment for yourself. Okay? So, and then we talked about environments, right? If you're in a physical environment, let's say you live in a house full of people who have addictions and you're someone who is a recovering addict or you aspire to be in recovery, that's not going to be conducive. Just like living in a house of unhealthy people who eat nothing but junk food and you want to go on your health journey, it's going to make it so much harder because you're set up for failure in the first place. It's hard enough to change. Let's say you were living alone, right, in a house, but you dealt with addictions to food or to sex or to drugs, right? It's hard enough to rid yourself of that alone. But if it's around you in your environment and other people are doing it, that's going to have an effect on you that's going to make you think, oh, one last time, or it's not that bad. Or next thing you know, you've been in that same habit loop for how long? So, and then also bringing the stuff in if you're someone who lives alone, right? Fall into that temptation. Staying out with men or women past midnight when you say you want to be celibate, right? Spending too much time with people when you say you want to reflect more or you want to focus on your goals, but your loneliness and your codependent behavior is leading you to be around people 25/8 when you know that your inner world is calling you. That's not an easy choice to make, but at some point you'll get to that crossroads and you're like, okay, it's time and it's worth it. And I talk about that point all the time because that's the beginning of the rest of your life. And that sounds so dramatic, but it's so real. So you have to look at your surroundings. Is it hard to change because you don't have a daily routine? Is it hard to change because you don't have positive reinforcements or consequences for your behavior? So let's say you decide, okay, next Saturday, I'm not going to smoke a cigarette for 24 hours. If you decide to smoke a cigarette, what's your repercussion? Do you have to do a certain number of push-ups? Are you going to have somebody hold you accountable and you have to pay them money? What's it going to be? And then if you do, what's your reward going to be? It's these little things along the way that's like, oh, that felt good. It could be simple as, girl, you did it. Dude, you did it. 24 hours. Like, it wasn't easy. Even if you go back to it the next day, it's just the fact that you kept your word to yourself for that duration of time. And that is huge. We're moving closer toward breaking out of this inability to change, right? Or this struggle with change. So, contradictory beliefs. Finding yourself indecisive, going back and forth, discussing what you're dealing with other people, getting a million and one other people's opinions on what you already know in your heart you should do because you don't trust yourself, right? Or you don't know for sure if you could see it through. When it comes to contradictory beliefs, it's like cognitive dissonance. You know what it is and you know what you should do, but there's something inside of you that is in contradiction to that. That's like pressing on the gas and the brake at the same time. You're going to go nowhere fast. Okay? So what you have to do is dig into that subconscious mind. Another thing you can do for reprogramming, once you diagnose your issue, is go to YouTube and listen to, let's say you have a mother-father wound. You deal with self-worth issues. You deal with abandonment issues. You deal with imposter syndrome, which really comes from not having knowledge of self. True self, not superficial self, right? You deal with issues around courage, taking risks. What you can do is find affirmations that resonate with you or even a self-hypnosis. Go to sleep to that. Play that all night long and do it for 21 days. And I promise you, you don't have to do anything extra. It's going to get into your subconscious during your different modes of sleep. And you're going to start to feel different. And then you're going to start to behave differently. And then the fruits of your life are going to change. So that's an easy little hack when it comes to contradictory beliefs. Another exercise is coming to my mind, and it's from the same woman. Her channel is Connecting with Guides and Spirit, I think. I'm going to link her again. She's incredible, and I've been learning so much from her. I don't want to mispronounce her name, though. But the exercise she had us do, it was one of her free teachings, but she shared it on YouTube from her Patreon, is it's a manifestation exercise. So instead of doing vision boards, what you do is you get a poster board of yourself and you get two pictures. You get one picture when you was down bad, down and out, right? And then you get another picture when you were living your best life, preferably something recent. Or when you were in the best shape of your life or whatever, you just looked good, okay? And you felt great. So on one side, you put that picture of yourself that is not so great. It was a time in your life when you were going through it. And on one half, I put my picture in the center, and I had it horizontal. On one half, I put things I like about myself, things that I don't like. And then on the side of things you don't like, put things you can change and things you can't change. I'm going to link the video to the rest of it so y'all can get to it. And then basically on the other one, you just do a poster board where you just big up yourself, like all the good things. And that's literally what she called it. Like, I love this woman. She's incredible. So I'm gonna link the video. I'm gonna find it for y'all and I'm gonna leave it down there. If you have issues with manifestations, it's likely an issue of contradictory beliefs, something within yourself. You're fighting yourself on it and you're not receptive. So you can pull all the things you want to you, but if you don't let it in, if this gate is like this and all your manifestations is outside the door trying to get around it, it's no use. You have to open up that gate. What opens up that gate? Self-acceptance, radical self-acceptance, radical self-love and self-forgiveness for all the things you've done and will ever do. And that doesn't mean you don't hold yourself accountable to be better, but you look at what you've done as it's spilled milk. What can I learn from this experience? Why did I take it that far? And you move on, okay? So watch the video, y'all. I'm going to link it. And it's been working for me. So, again, are you set up for failure with your daily routine, with your environment, with the people you hang around, with your circle? And if you do have contradictory beliefs, pray for a heart of steadfastness and strength, okay? And then your defaults. We talked about it. What are your defaults when you have your triggers? Is it isolation and hiding when you're going through the darkness, when you're struggling with something? Is it numbing yourself with food, with substances, with intercourse? Is it choosing to ignore the call to heal for that wisdom? Are you choosing to ignore that for distractions like TikTok or YouTube or movies or going out? So you have to examine those things and what you do to break this habit. So we're going into the solution. So the first thing with that is the next time you get triggered and you reflect and become conscious of that trigger, think of what you usually would do in a situation and force yourself. This is when the force is going to come in because you have to give resistance to it, like we talked about fighting depression or whatever. And things like that. You have to give resistance to that habit because you have to break it. It's like a board. You have to break it. So use that intention to heal and to grow and to change to be the fuel behind your punch through that old behavior. And even if you repeat the behavior down the road in the future, it's like you made a little cut in that pattern. You made a little cut. And sever by sever, eventually it'll be severed. And that takes time, it takes patience, and it takes that trigger being triggered multiple times. So that's why most people don't deal with spirituality or refuse to go on their spiritual journeys, because you have to face so much within yourself that you don't want to look at because it's not easy to face. It doesn't feel good. When I talk about things like shadow work and all that, it may sound easy because I've done it for so many years, but y'all, I still struggle. There's a situation going on now where I'm like, what? Girl, what were you thinking? What? And I can laugh about it because it's so insane. But that's also the way I give myself grace. It's like, I'm going to get on my ASS for a second and look myself in the mirror. We're going to have a talk about this because we cannot be putting ourselves in these kind of situations. But after that, we're going to laugh about it. And I'm just going to take it on the chin as another lesson. That's alchemy. Instead of saying, oh, you got issues and you blah, blah, blah. Like, no, baby. You made a mistake because you thought you were going to get what you needed for some reason out of the situation. And even though you saw otherwise, you chose to do blah, blah, blah. And that's how I talk through it with myself instead of blaming myself or blaming it on my father or my mother or whatever. It's not a blame game. It's a intentional acceptance. So what it simply comes down to is making a decision, this or that. Can you live with the sacrifices that these choices and these habits and these dogs are not allowing this. I'm gonna have to hurry up. So, can you live with the sacrifices? And what's the alternative? If you continue to go down this path, that path, we already talked about that in the last episodes, but the reason that is continuing to come up and come up as I discuss these things is because that's really all life is. It's a series of decisions. And so our job is to take our experiences, learn from them, and learn to make better decisions. And that takes courage every time, especially when it comes to walking away from things we love or things that we're comfortable. It's easy to walk away from things that are pure harmful. We don't hold on to things that are pure poison, right? That's why nobody likes to go through the forest and rub poison ivy on their butts. Like, there's no benefit to that, versus staying in addictive patterns or staying in certain situations. Like, there's some kind of benefit that we're getting, but you have to learn to weigh the cost with the benefits. And this is what I do when I'm struggling to make a decision. I put one, like a yes or no decision, or stay or go decision, whatever. Write the situation at the top of the paper, put a line down the paper. What are the reasons you would say yes? What are the reasons you would say no? From there, the proof is in the pudding. And if you choose to go against that, then you'll be led back around. So it's okay. And then you want to create a crisis plan. So when you find yourself, let's say you started to do this work to change. You've listened to this video one more time. You've gone over it in your head, the areas of your life that hit, right? But eventually, let's say you go for a week and you're doing great. Then next thing you know, you're back into the same patterns and you need a hard reset. For me, I'll watch a sermon. I'll do some sound healing. I'll go ground in nature. And there are certain videos that I watch, like when I'm really struggling with trading, I'll watch my mentor. Like, it's like you need something that's a hard reset and like a jolt of electricity back onto the right path so that you can kind of maintain your progress and you don't have to do all that fighting all over again. It's like, I've been like, it's like you get to reground yourself in your growth. You're not starting from square one, okay? You had your week or 2 weeks or month of progress and you go back there and you continue from where you started. You build on what you already grew. Just because you messed up doesn't mean that everything you did is undone. Even if it's a weight loss journey or weight gain journey. Even if you gained back those 10 pounds that you lost within the past 2 months or whatever the case may be, at least you learned that you could drop that weight. At least you learned that you could drop that weight in that amount of time. Right? If you've gone 2 weeks without crying over somebody or over a situation that broke your heart, but on the first day of week 3, you're crying all over again like it just happened, that's okay too. At least you know that it's possible for you to not cry over it someday. Instead of being hard on yourself about going back to it, just look at, okay, now I know what I'm capable of, kind of. Like, I know that I'm able to change. Now you see the proof. Even if you go that 24 hours we talked about. So just continue to build on that and know and remind yourself of the reward for your change. Yes, you're going to have to give up something, but you're going to gain a lot too. And that can be scary when what you've gained is not facing you like the thing that you're getting ready to give up is facing you. But that takes courage. It takes strength. And once you make the decision and you do receive what's on the other side of that gate that you've been keeping out, okay, you're going to be so happy that you chose to be brave. I love y'all so much. I hope this resonated with you. I hope that it helps you on your journey. And I'll be praying for you. Okay? I love you so much. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Stay focused on your goals. Okay? And have fun. I think that's it. Yeah. Until next time, your favorite wellness coach signing out. Peace.